Perception can really mess with us as hunters, especially when it comes to understanding something that you can only relate to your current experiences. That's why, as coaches, we can tell by our viewers' questions that we need to take a step back and not assume that we all see things the same way. Because, y'all, we just don't. Tonight's first topic is a perfect example. Using your senses, your eyes, ears, and nose to elk hunt. Just what does that mean? Well, y'all, we're going to talk about just that. Also tonight, time for some advanced elk hunting setup scenarios. Yeah, buddy. Those topics, along with our ElkBros shout-outs and questions from our live viewers and letters from our ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilliam. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
I believe we are live, Joe. Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And for those blue-collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of the show, coming to you live from Dallas, Texas, and from New Mexico, your elk hunting coaches, Joe Gillia and Leroy Chavez. And yes, we do have one of the members of the Venezuelan Mafia with us tonight, the infamous Luis Gonzalez. What's up, fellas?
Hey, Gilbert. How are you?
Live, boys, live again.
Live on YouTube.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, so first thing we're going to do is as we have people coming on live, we got Derek Baker's in, Jeffrey Stevenson in, Dean's in the house, Matthew Flowers is in the house. Hello, guys. Remember, we usually get about a 20-second to 30-second delay. So what we want to do, we're excited because tonight is about really letting these guys get questions, and we're going to try to get more and more people. We're going to watch them as they come in, hopefully as people get inside. We will get into our topic. We will remind people once we see them coming in, if you have any questions at all, you guys that are live, that are following us, if you have any questions during the show, just post them. Luis and Chav here are going to be looking for those. Gilbert's going to be looking for them, and we'll try to answer those. And we're going to hit into our regular topics as we go, and we're going to try to cover both questions from those people and our own, go through our own questions that we have in our mailbox as well. So looking excited about all of this.
They're popping up as we speak, Joe.
Yep, absolutely.
So we got some cool things to talk about. Definitely our camo that's hitting the streets. Joe, you got anything that you want to say about that? We put it on display for us this first part of this last week here in fantastic. It's turned out fantastic.
No, I'm real excited about it. You know, probably the toughest thing that we had to go through with our camo was choosing, because we actually have two color patterns, man. And it was like, you know, we have one that it has the green, a little bit more brown in it, and we have one that's more of the green. The first pattern is really the one that we stuck with coming out here. But what's cool about this is we're going to have our grinders out there. They're going to be in this, and we're going to get to know what they think about the camo and the camo pattern. And then as soon as we're ready and we're getting some word back from people, man, then we're going to go ahead and put up so that they can choose from, you know, if they want that really green pattern out there for that, you know, either spring or something like that. But what we found was when we went out and we did our tests on it, the green with more of the brown in it really worked well with the piney woods and what's happening this time of year. So, and we will hit all these questions when we get down. We're going to get started with the rest part of our show as people come on. Remember,
I was going to say the questions are flying in.
They're already, hey, I'm loving that. But gentlemen, remember what we're going to do is you keep putting your questions. When we get to where we are in that part of the show, we'll start hitting those questions. We're going to talk about our main topic. If you have any questions on that, or you have just your own questions, you just load them up, and we'll keep scrolling through and trying to hit them. All right? So that's where we're going to go. All right, Gilbert.
Well, guys, first of all, y'all know what time it is. These are just a few shout outs to cities with our listeners, most listeners topping our charts this week.
First up, ElkBros shout outs to those grinders giving us such great reviews on Apple Podcasts or Podbean. John Child out of Utah. Paul Perky, our buddy Paul's been giving us a review. And Trevin Butler, want to thank you guys. And now for our top listening cities. And I want the guys in the audience, I'm looking for, this is kind of rating like when people are diving and swimming, right? You know, you get the 10, you get the 9, all right?
Yeah,
I want to see how well I do this. Do you think I could do this professionally or not? 10 being the highest, 1 being you suck, Joe. So here we go. And if you have any trouble finding any of the cities we're about to talk to or finding your way in the Elkwoods, Basemap Pro is the GPS app of choice of the ElkBros crew. And for all you grinders that are following us tonight, that are listening next week, if you are looking for an incredible deal, you can get 20% off a Basemap Pro subscription with the promo code ElkBros20. That's ELKBROS20. And here's the thing, y'all. That's going to cost you $24, and it's going to cover all 50 states, available to you with that promo code. That, my friends, is a grinder's deal right there. How'd I do?
I can see video advertising in your future, brother.
All right. Chav, you're up first.
You're up, brother.
Okay, our top listening city this week. A census-designated place in Jefferson County, Colorado. It's actually a suburb of Denver. John Schaefer, a successful entrepreneur, purchased the land, and that was originally his ranch, then a settlement in 1914. He later owned the Rocky Mountain News, the Denver Times, and the Denver Republican newspapers. Schaefer was so close to President Theodore Roosevelt and carried a letter granting him immediate access to the president. John named our top city after his sons, Ken and Carroll. Now, Carroll is spelled Carroll, but the folks in this city pronounce the area Kent Carl, Colorado.
Kent Carl. Yeah. In
awesome.
the house. I have never heard of Kent Carl.
Yeah, it's not really it's like a place, not really a city.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah, it's not incorporated or unincorporated, but it's supposed to be a really nice area.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Luis.
So, yeah, the next top listening city is also not a city, but an incorporated community in Virginia. Popular places to visit include Tews Falls, Diamond Farm, and the Rock Chapel Golf Center. Do you love some sheep stew? If so, the Ruritan Club here claims to make the best sheep stew in the world, cooking it twice a year in large batches to raise money for community services and projects. Dundas, Virginia.
Dundas, Virginia.
Dundas, Virginia in the house. The boys from the East Coast.
Yeah, man, and all over the United States. And again, you know, I keep learning about different places here. But let me tell you what, the best sheep stew in the world, you know,
Leave it to the Commonwealth, Joe.
All right. Hey, I'm up, man. I'm up for anything, man.
Absolutely. Located in the county seat of Clackamas on the Willamette River. This top listening city near the southern limits of Portland metropolitan area, was established in 1829 by the Hudson Bay Company. In 1844, it became the first U.S. city west of the Rocky Mountains to be incorporated. Believe it or not, this city has a 130-foot outdoor elevator that connects two neighborhoods and is officially called Elevator Street, the only vertical street in North America, and it connects the lower city to the upper city. It's the only outdoor elevator in the U.S. and only one of four in the world. It takes only 15 seconds to take passengers to the top in none other than Oregon City, Oregon.
So, does anybody grasp this, man? They have a vertical street, man. Oh, my Lord.
You know, I was excited when I saw the city pop up in the charts, Joe. I have beautiful memories of this place. When I first came to the U.S. in 1997, actually 1996, I came as an exchange student to this city, and I stay with an incredible family, the Foxes. I still keep in touch with them, Jack and Kathy and all their kids. This is where I learned English, and basically what opened up my eyes to eventually want to become a U.S. citizen. So love this city, beautiful city. They had an incredible house with a view to Mount Hood from their backyard.
Wait, forget Mount Hood, man. Did you ride the elevator?
I did not, man. So I'm reading this. It's like, man, I didn't see this elevator. They took me everywhere, right? They even took me to, Yellowstone National Park on snowmobiling. My very first elk hunt that I ever went on with a rifle hunt, I did it with Jack. Jack took me to that elk hunt. So it's incredible memories. 10 months that I spent there changed my life forever in the most positive way. So love that city. Kudos to them.
I am extremely happy for you, man. And I don't want it to sound like I'm not. But you did not ride the elevator.
I did not. I didn't even know that existed. And if I did, I can't remember.
Shoot, man. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Located in the Magic Valley region, this city is located on ancient Native American grounds frequented by the Shoshone and Bannock Indians. An area attractions include the Shoshone Falls, Perrin Bridge, and Sawtooth National Forest. But for me, y'all, listen, this is what's big to me. I'm not sure if you remember it, but in 1974, me and my family were glued to the TV when Evil, none other than himself, Knievel, tried to jump the Snake River Canyon on a steam-powered rocket. And I want you guys to know, Evil survived that. It did make it to the other side, never landed on the other side. The parachute came out and carried him back down into the canyon and almost drowned his butt. I mean, he's probably 20 yards from drowning. Evil Knievel, man. I can remember watching him so many times on TV. Oh, we're going to go back. Scott, thank you. So he says it's actually Ken Carroll back there. And we're getting some great comments here, man. I mean, is sheep stew better than elk tag soup? Yeah, Joe, I think it is, man. That's pretty.
I know it is. I'll take me a big bite of sheep stew before I eat the elk tag.
Oh, man, that's way cool. All right, so
a really good question here was, from Scott Baker. He says, "Hey guys, is Chav going to be out in the woods this year?" My answer to him was, "Is a pig's ass pork?" Hell yeah. If it hair lips the New Mexican governor, we're putting Chav in the woods with us.
So I've got to finish my shout out because, man, that is a big Elk Bros shout out to our listener, Tracy Henry in Twin Falls, Idaho, because he sent that in and we wanted to make sure that he got on there, man.
Awesome.
If it hair, tell me what it means to hair lip the governor.
Yeah, that's just an old saying that my grandpa used to say.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious, man. I love that.
He said, "We're gonna do it if it hair lips the governor."
The final city. This is a suburb of St. Paul, and is on the eastern side of the Twin Cities metropolitan area. The city was named for a grove of trees near the original town site. If you're ever here, you got to stop and eat at Cheryl's Cafe, a local hangout with delicious breakfast and brunch delights, and a D-Spot chicken joint. D-Spot for some incredible chicken. Big shout out to Oakdale, Minnesota.
Oakdale, Minnesota.
And
chicken.
I told you last week, man. I had the Colonel's secret. I met the Colonel, so I don't know about D-Spot, right? But guys, everybody that's there, welcome, man. Scott Baker, Richard, Joe, I just love having you here. Dean, man, we love having our live audience here. We're seeing all the comments coming on. Shane, yeah, you made it, Shane. That is way cool. Jeffrey Stevenson, and we're gonna go through those questions as we get through there, and if any of them pertain to what we're talking about as we come out, we're going to hit some of those, and then we're going to throw these other ones in there. Joe said an Evel Knievel stunt bike, man. I hope you had the bones that didn't get broken with it, because that fellow was always busted up. So,
hey, Joe, and I've been writing down some of the questions just so we don't forget to touch on them.
Awesome. I knew my Venezuelan brother couldn't help himself.
Yep, had to.
He's on it.
Somebody
like
had to.
He's on it like a rat on a Cheeto.
That's right.
So the first topic tonight was inspired by a question from Jonathan Bruce out of Eugene, Oregon, and I had the pleasure of giving John a phone call, and it was so cool to talk with him, because he was talking about an area and we were talking about different aspects, and he told me some of his concerns, and he sent him in a question. He says, I had a question about what you meant by hunt with your eyes and your ears and not your feet. You said that just walking around is a bad idea. The area I hunt has only a couple peaks. Now, I don't know if I've ever said walking around is a bad idea, because otherwise I do a lot of bad. The area I hunt has only a couple peaks with a lot of canopy, and I checked this out, and he's exactly right. There is no way to see a herd. It could be that I don't call appropriately or that the trees kill the sound, but I don't hear any answers coming back. Haven't smelled them either. The trees are probably a good windbreak. I know they're in the area, though, so my last option is to go park looking for them and putting on a lot of miles. Should I not be doing that? Is there another option? And one thing that I wanted to talk about was his perception of what I was talking about as far as hunting with your eyes, your ears, and your nose. And I think a lot of times, y'all, again, perceptions are, we take those from our own examples and from our own background and stuff. And when I said to hunt with your eyes, he understood that as using optics, being up on a hill and being able to find and see elk. Well, if y'all see this country he's in, and if you hunt in the type of country that we like to hunt in, then you're going to have a lot of trouble seeing elk with binos. In fact, we don't take binos with us. The thicker, the better, because now you have the opportunity to get the animals close up when you're bow hunting, right?
Right.
So when I talk about hunting with your senses, Gilbert, how do you take that from your standpoint over there?
When you talk about hunting with my senses, it's about every sense I have, not just my sight, my hearing, but definitely with my nose. I do a lot of hunting just with my nose. I can smell game. You know what, you've done it so much, you know what they smell like. So you can't forget that sense of your smell, that sense of hearing, that sense of sight. But again, I mean, you got to put the miles in to get to where they are. And we've said 1,000 times, huh, Joe, elk are where they are, right? That's where they are. So a lot of times you got to put your head down, nose into the wind, and go do what you got to do to hunt them up, right? But you can't ever. I think a lot of us can get ahead of ourselves, and we outwalk our eyes, we outwalk our ears, we outwalk our nose. We get in a hurry instead of just, I've said this before and had to to explain it, boodling along in the woods. At the end of the day, that's what we kind of want to do, is just meander, listen, smell, take it all in. I think for me, when you say use our senses, that's what it's all about, Joe.
So that's
Um,
what.
Yeah, and I was just going to comment. It doesn't hurt to take, a minute out and stop and just listen, and even if you're not bugling, if you're not, making cow calls, it just helps to just stop for a second and just take it in and listen. You may be making too much noise yourself that you're not listening to your surroundings and probably spooking stuff around you as well. So it doesn't hurt to do that every once in a while, especially after you throw a location bugle out there. Joe, you taught us this day one. It's like when I throw a location bugle out there, we all stop for a second. Everybody's super silent, and we'll listen in for at least a minute just to see if we hear anything respond at any distance that we won't be able to hear if we're all making noise or getting, water bottles out of our backpack and everything and making all kinds of noises.
Well, one of the things though that here's what I want people to understand is, elk give an advantage in that they tell us a lot of times where they are because they're audible, and understand they're not just audible only with a bugle. They make other noises, but beyond that, like, he was saying that, Jonathan was saying that, he's not hearing any elk bugles. Well, when I talk about hunting with my eyes, and it's a lot like Gilbert's talking about, when I'm moving through the woods, I am looking for track, I'm looking for sign, you can actually see if you have any kind of like a meadow with high grass and an early morning dew. If you look at it as you're coming there, you can see the dew track.
A trail.
Yeah, the trail from elk that are moving through that. And if you see a dew track of 3 trails going through, and you can tell by the size of it, it's not a bear because there's 3 of them. You have elk moving through that. So that tells you something, that those animals are in the area. By paying attention to your eyes as well, by looking for a part of an animal as you're moving through, looking for movement going through the trees, paying attention and looking for a flash or a patch. So that's the types of things that I'm talking about when I'm saying use your eyes. I'm not just talking about being up high and using optics. I'm talking about use that hunting skill set. That's the skill set that somebody that stalks muleys or stalks whitetails that you're going to have. You're looking for the ear. You're looking for, a twitch. You're looking for movement going through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking for that ear flicker. For me, guys, I've hunted with a lot of guys, and they look over elk. They look past them. For me, you guys got to focus on that first 3 foot off the ground, because you're going to see those legs move. You'll see an ear flicker. You'll see the outline of their tail end, right, their butt. I can't tell you how many times I've stopped and kept looking, and then all of a sudden I see an ear flicker or the glint of an antler, or just feet walking through the brush, right? But
Absolutely.
you got to start from the ground up and work that first 3 feet in front of you. If you're looking over the top, chances are you're going to look right over them, even especially in the thick stuff. You'll look right over them because they blend in so well. The camouflage those dudes have beat anything we can put on, but it's amazing how well they can blend in just a few jack pines, Joe. I've seen them just disappear, right? Just a few.
Yeah.
And they're huge. I mean, they're Clydesdale horse style animals, and they're huge, and just a few jack pines will hide them.
Yeah, and some other signs you can look for is, when they lay down, especially in, I would imagine, Oregon. Is that where it's from?
Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon.
Yeah.
When they lay down, they're going to flatten a big area. So, as far as, seeing the track or the trail in the dew, look for areas where there's large indentations where they've laid down. But going back to what Luis was saying, as far as listening, stop and listen, like he said, because sometimes you'll get a warning from the chipmunks or the squirrels that something's approaching. At the same time, they'll also tell the elk that you're approaching, because if you've been bothered by these little rodents, I guess they're rodents.
Yeah.
You know, they'll let them know when we're coming along too.
I think it was last year, you and I and Brendan, Chav, we were sitting there and we just got done with a call session. And I looked up and I heard a chipmunk go at it. And then I heard a squirrel going at it. And we looked up and the coyote was coming to us. But we knew something was coming because the chipmunks went crazy and the squirrels went crazy. And we had a coyote, headed dead at us, you know. So those other animals will always cue you in to something moving.
And also hear some birds flying off the tree, you know, that got spooked by something. So, you know, just be aware of the sounds around you.
And that's what I'm talking about, using your senses. And Tracy Henry asked a good question that kind of ties in this, because in some of these guys, they're not hearing something maybe because there's wolves in the area. We don't deal with something like that. But, you know, Tracy, what I understand is that, and I've never hunted where wolves are. So I'm speaking a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I have done a lot of study on it. And from what I understand, when I talk to my buddies up in Idaho, they're saying, look, you can blame your hunting on wolves as much as you want to, or as little as you want to. That the problem is that the elk are still being audible, and some places they're just really going off. But a lot of times they're using more low audible noises, using more chuckles, using more grunts, more groans. They're using more of the pants and stuff. So they're just, and when they're in trees, when they get in the trees, then like what Jonathan was saying, those bugles don't carry as far. So that's one of the things that you got to remember. So I would say, you know, when you're hunting wolves, if I am working in an area where I see wolf track and they're working that area too, I've had the same thing happen with cougars. Once a cougar gets on my same group of elk I'm working, things are getting ready to get really quiet. Now it'll come back up later on, because they will come back into areas that have feed and that have water. But at that time, at that moment, those critters are going to get out if they smell a predator in there. So you're going to have to move out because you're just another predator competing. And think about this, that there's a lot of things out there that are competing to be able to eat an elk. You've got us. And if you're in those upper Montana, you got the grizzlies that could be doing that. Black bears are something else on calves. I mean, they just wipe them out. So there's a lot of predators out there that are hunting those animals. So I would just continue to do what I do, but understand that maybe I have to use some different low audible noises when I'm in there, and I'm going to have to use my senses more to follow them. Okay. But that's kind of, when we talk about using our senses, when I talk about using my ears, I'm not talking about just bugles. I'm not just listening for bugles. And you guys that are ridge running, only looking for bugles, are going by a lot of elk. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a fact.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt. And what Jonathan's asking is that he's not seeing or hearing or smelling or anything like that.
Well,
Jonathan, if you're not, look, elk are vocal animals. If you're hunting during the rut and you're not hearing any bugling and stuff like, and you're not seeing any sign of elk and you're not hearing anything, and it's time to move around, you know, because they are where they are. You are going to hear them sound off when they're in rut if you're hunting at that time, right? I mean, the cows are going to be moving. It's really important for you to find where their feed is. We said this 1,000 times, that they're slaves to their bellies, and I'm sure in Oregon they get plenty of rain, so there's probably lots of grass, probably abundance of water. So it's really going to be about you moving around to find these critters. And maybe it is covering ground, because if you're not seeing, hearing, smelling, finding fresh sign, then you're not.
Well, I want to talk about that covering ground, though, because there's another perception. So when I'm saying you don't just want to be covering ground, I need to add some of that. You don't want to just be covering ground to cover it. You want to cover ground in areas that are most likely to hold critters. All right. So like I showed him when on a map on an area that he's hunting, that there's a great drainage with some beautiful park after park after park that works into a bowl area that has 3 drainages coming into it. by working that drainage with all those parks, with the water that has a good feed in the open areas, and finding breaks in the canopy, whether it's an old fire, whether it's if you're in an area that gets a lot of snow and keeps some stuff down in some areas, whether it's a rock slide, whether it's in Oregon, in Washington, they do a lot of tree farming out there. So those areas where they've done those tree cuts, or they've thinned out here in New Mexico or Colorado, trying to stop some of the burns. So anytime you have a change in the canopy, now you are creating areas that you want to move through. And again, when I'm talking about using my nose and my senses, then what I want to do is I want to work areas that I think that could hold animals at a crosswind, so that I have that wind coming to me and I can smell them out. I don't want to always walk with a headwind, y'all. And the reason I want to walk with a headwind is because when I do that, all I can smell is what's in front of me. I can see what's in front of me. So if I walk at a crosswind to a bedding area or to a feed corridor or any of those areas, if I walk at a crosswind within a half mile, I can catch the scent and smell elk. Definitely 400 yards, man. But if you do that, now if you walk at a crosswind, I get to smell them from the upwind side. I can see in front of me, and I can see to my other side before my wind gets there. So I have just broadened my space of hunting when I'm moving through. And something else that we do. So here's something else I'm going to kind of tell you guys. If you want to get to an area and you want to hunt it and the wind's wrong, so you just reverse that trick that I talked about, how I didn't want to have a headwind because I'm only smelling what's in front of me. Well, you can do the same thing if you need to get to an area. You put the wind directly at your back and you walk with the wind. And when you do that, only the area in front of you, and it's going to cone out some, but the area in front of you is what they're going to be able to smell. So I can actually get there that way, and I can still have things happen on the peripheral, on the sides, that aren't going to smell me. So the wind, the thermals are huge, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. And before I go into advanced setup scenarios, and I'll find out if some one of these guys, let's hit a couple of these questions that you've seen, Luis.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the first questions I got here, Joe, it was a question about a winter ridge or concentrations on the apps, and I think he mentioned, say, on Onyx, how are the winter range or concentrations there?
So I'm not sure if I understand the question, though, on that.
Yeah, and I can see if I can find it here. How accurate are the winter range and concentrations on, say, Onyx?
So,
yeah,
I couldn't tell you. Totally wouldn't know that, man. Winter range is not something so much that we deal with in New Mexico. And now you can go to Colorado and you can look on Colorado's Division of Wildlife, and you can, on some of those tools, find what they call migration routes. So
because they do.
Yeah, and I really like the migration routes, and it will show that from winter range to summer range. And you know, to me, it's such a broad brush that they do. So they're saying, yeah, they're seeing the elk down in these areas. And a lot of times it's down in farmland, it's down in flats, different places like that where they get pushed down for their winter range in certain areas. And then they'll move back up in the hills, and where they see them most often. You know, like I know right here in southern Colorado, when they head from the lower part there up to the Oso, up there, up into the wilderness, you know, they see those animals that kind of get up in there. But I can tell you this, I've guided in that country, and there's groups of cows that never even leave that area. So you'll have some migration depending on how bad the snows. Now, if you're talking about Montana, you're talking about Wyoming, there's an incredible winter range and migration there. So that's something that those guys would have to speak to a little bit.
Yep. And then another thing is that they were asking about elk tree stand hunting. Any tips for placement and I guess general tips for tree stand hunting? I don't know that I have ever seen or done anything like that, Joe, but I'm sure you guys probably have seen.
Oh yeah, we use tree stands, man. And if you're going to sit over water, I recommend a tree stand to do that.
You betcha.
If you find, we have a certain place where we hunt that animals love to go from the bottoms up the ridge to the top. And there is one place that they really, I mean, there's a major trail they like to go up. It's a perfect place for a tree stand. Get you off the ground. You can see them before they see you. It's just finding that corridor, finding whatever's going to attract them and placing that up in there. And it's effective. Me, I'm not able to tree stand hunt, man, because I mean that's like sitting in a blind. It drives me friggin' nuts. I'm like ADD, you know. I mean,
Yeah, right.
yeah, remember trying to hunt
Gotta have,
antelope?
gotta have some patience. Yeah,
Oh man, and
Got to have the patience of Job.
right.
yeah, because you definitely ain't got the patience of Joe, man. This guy's got to go out and scream them up, man. I mean, just and Matt Flowers had a question. He says, "I have a question about burns. I have a unit that borders another unit that's off limits with a huge 2017 burn. Should I put most effort close to the burn?" Now, I read that, Matt, if I'm correct, that you have a unit with the burn on the other side, right? So, as far as that being, if that burn is close to your unit right there, there's animals that could be moving in and out of there to feed and come back. We have animals that do that all the time, that cross barriers on us where we're not able to go because we end up in units that are surrounded by private property all over in different places. I mean, or you can be in units that you're going to go from one hunt unit that's really, really great to, like, let's say the Valle Vidal, and which we're not able to enter into. And we'll have elk that are screaming like crazy over there. So do you just stay away from that, or can you pull those critters? Me, I take great pride in pulling those critters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have done it and watched it done.
Yep. Many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I wanted to go back to the stand deal. I've got a really good friend of mine who's got an outfitter business. They kill multiple bulls every year over a wallow and a watering hole, and they kill some really good ones, especially midday. They sit up there in the morning, and then they come back, get them a little bite to eat, go right back out for the midday. And a lot of those bulls come down to get water midday and where they're at. So they put it on the downwind side. They know what prevailing wind is. He's probably got 3 different ladder stands so he can actually hunt the wind that day. So he's got one on the prevailing sides of wherever those bulls would come from. And most of his shots are between 20 and 30 yards that they're taking, and they're slam dunks when they get them. But he takes 3 to 4 bulls a year out of that tree stand. So you guys set up over those water holes and those travel corridors, and y'all can make that work.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
One other question, and I think we'll be caught up after this one. There's been a lot of questions on broadheads and helicals and veins and all of that stuff. It's been a interesting conversation here in the background on that one. But one last question outside of that topic was about your socks.
Oh,
They were asking, hey, you talk about good socks. What kind of socks do you use? And should we buy some good merino wool, or
let's talk to the baby. Let's talk to the baby feet up there, man.
Yeah, hey, listen, you guys know one thing. I got one speed. It's slow, and I take care of these peds right here, brother. But these feet, they get a workout when I'm in the woods with these boys. It is imperative to have a good pair of socks. I usually buy my socks at Cabela's, and they're a standard pair of merino hunting socks. They feel so much better on your feet inside of a boot. A lot of guys ask, what boots do I wear? Well, I wear 2 different styles. So I wear a North Face pack boot, and then I wear a Mindel boot. And so those 2, and I wear a Merrell too. I wear a Merrell like hiking boot as well that are Gore-Tex. Everything I wear is Gore-Tex, and my socks are expensive socks. Guys, I pay, sometimes $25 a pair for a pair of socks. But I'm telling you, I've done it with just regular old tube socks, cotton tube socks. Man, my feet they sweat, they stay damp, and it hurts my feet. So when I went to wearing better socks, that helped my feet a ton.
Yeah.
I wear Hanes. I buy them in a pack, $12 for a pack. But I wear tennis shoes, and I, you know,
Don't let Joe lie to you. He was a Gore-Tex sock. I've watched him.
oh yeah, if it's wet out, I have biker socks. So
Yeah, so I was gonna mention that those became extremely helpful for me last year. I got me a regular pair of socks underneath, but then on top of those, I used those biker impermeable socks,
right.
which are great if you ever get any water past those Gore-Tex boots or anything like that, or even, sweat or anything like that. I mean, they're super helpful. So that was a great tip from you, Joe, last year.
And so when we talk about bikers, y'all, we're not talking about Harley bikers. We're talking about cyclists. And you can go on Amazon and you can put in cyclist waterproof socks. Those guys have to do that all the time for where they're out. They wear great. I put them over just a thin pair of cotton socks. Now, if I have a dry day, and back in the day, we always had wet feet.
Yeah, and that's that's horrible.
Yeah.
When you have wet feet.
Well, especially out there, it rains almost every day, and you don't get a chance to dry your boots or dry your socks out there, and it really sucks when you get your gear wet because it's gonna be hard to get it dried up again.
Yeah, those
Yes.
biker socks have been a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really have.
And they're not expensive.
And gators. And gators, man. That morning dew, once it gets your pants wet, your socks wick it up, goes straight to your feet. Those gators are worth their money in gold, especially where we hunt and there's a lot of morning dew, or it's rained a lot and it's real wet up there. Those gators are huge for us.
Hey, and Matt Flowers was saying that that burn jumps into his unit a bit, but most of it's on that off-limit side. So possibly, Matt, what you want to take a look at is that burn would be a feeding area. So is there bedding area that they're coming from on your side and then moving into the feeding area? If they're doing that, you're in a really, really great situation because they're only going to be in the burn feeding for a certain amount of time. The rest of the day, they're going to move up into the bedding area. So you're in a great situation to catch them coming out of the feed, moving to a destination, going to a bedding area where you can now have them for 7, 8 hours up there and get a chance to get a midday hunt on them by putting them to bed. So I wouldn't cross it out because the burn's all the way on that side. I mean, that's just where they're going to go into feed and they're going to move out of that. So really pay attention to what you have with that. All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk to about our setup scenarios. And that was one of the things that I've had some people talking to me about. Oh my God, man. Matt said that his whole side is all north face over there. So, dude, I don't know. I think you're in high cotton right there. I would not put that out. I mean, I would, even if I could hear animals down there bugling in a burn and you're on a north face side and you hear them screaming, man, I would pay attention to them heading my way, and you got a chance really to work a corridor. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go to advanced setups.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean by advanced setups. And one of the things that guys always do when they're calling elk, and I talk about this all the time, our philosophy when we call elk is, I believe that there's two things. Well, there's three. You could be passive, but really you're either being a lover or you're being a fighter when you call elk. Do you understand what I'm talking about, guys out there? Guys and gals, you're going to be a lover or a fighter. And our philosophy is, I always tell the guys that I coach, that I teach, what do we want to be?
Well,
Lover.
Yeah.
But we can switch to be a fighter real quick if we need to.
Absolutely. Because if those animals, like on that our first hunt, September 2nd, that bull went off screaming right away, right?
Right.
If a bull engages you in a fighter mode, we went right after it, right?
Yeah. Just become a fighter then.
Yeah, you become a fighter. But what most people are doing is they want to engage a bull directly. And a lot of our scenarios are scenarios for, and Jonathan might like this, is if there's nothing going on, or let's say that Matt Flowers, for example, let's say that Matt has a whole herd that's screaming over there inside that burn area on the other side of the fence, right? Well, what we do is we utilize scenarios to be another group of elk and then pull them coming back to us. So some of the things that we do, for example, a destination bull scenario. Let's say that I'm not getting any vocal animals out there. So what I want to do is I want to be that bull. And I am going to act like a bull with cows, moving up a ridge, moving to wherever I want to go, and I am going to be screaming and doing cow calls as I do it, exactly the way the elk do it, so that I'm going to bed. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for elk that are going to come in from the sides that might end up popping a chuckle, or they're going to sneak in on me. And then once I get into my bedding area, once I get up into that coolness in that part of the day and get to an area, then I'm going to go to my advertising mode. And the best way I could think about our advertising mode is that time that you and I were hunting that group in the Jack Pines, and we got separated with that big group of elk on the side of the ridge there, and I killed that one bull when we were separate. And I was screaming all the double bugles to bring you in. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you got to me, what's the first thing I told you, man? We had all those bulls that came into me when I was trying to.
They just kept coming in.
Yeah. So because I was being obnoxious, and get this, I'm trying to get Chav to come to me because Chav needed to help me pack that booger out, right? So I'm screaming, double bugle, going, Chav, come on in. And in the time it took for him to get to me, I had already called in 4 separate bulls that came into me. So these are scenarios when things aren't going that you can actually get things started.
Right. And it wasn't just the only time it's happened. When we earlier, I'm not sure what year it was. There's been so many. You did the same thing. You were calling me in, or trying to call me in, and you had about 4 or 5 bulls come into you. But at the same time, I had a herd come by me heading to you also. And we had a double kill that day. You know, little did we know that we were going to end up hiking 8 miles with meat on our backs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've seen it work.
8 miles. Whew.
Yeah. So I've seen it work about 4 or 5 times, that double bugle, where you're creating the that scenario that there's a couple of bulls in the area.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that double scream, what it does is it actually sounds like 2 different bulls engaging each other.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
yeah, and it just, man, when you just keep doing that, it's almost like you're advertising a hot cow in the area. And I mean, I never made any other sounds. I made no huffs, no puffs, no cow sounds. I'm just trying to get Chab to come into me. And I tell you what, like he said, yeah, Luis, you ought to try. Man, the trip of 2 elk coming out, no pack, everything on your shoulder. We started at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we didn't get out till 7 o'clock that night. You know, hauling meat on our back.
Yeah, it was a half mile one way.
I was gonna say also, guys, if anybody's curious as to what that double bugle sounds like, you know, the Academy has a great spot where Joe has broken down all the different bugles, and you can click play and listen to every single one of the bugles with and any cow sound as well, with a description of what they are and what they mean. Pretty freaking awesome.
The content is fantastic, Joe. I've been going through it little by little on some of my traveling trips, and I'm telling you, it's fantastic. Interactive as it can be. You do a great job talking and teaching. It's fantastic stuff.
You know, the cool thing that I'm having fun with right now that got Luis into it today, and Luis was just going berserk when we our decision tree. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
Beto, you've got to check this if you haven't already, brother. It's just off the roof. I mean, it's just, yeah. I'm gonna have dreams tonight. And look, man, I'm telling you, you're reading this decision trees, and I start reading the decision trees, and it's basically Joe painting a scenario. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're out there, and he starts painting a scenario, and then he's got a question. Okay, what do you do next? and then he gives you the options. I'm
Sure.
reading the scenario, man. I'm getting pumped up. I'm getting the virulaques. I'm getting excited just reading the scenarios. Like, okay, great job. Now, okay, so this is what's happening now, and this is how it's developing. Man, super freaking cool. And then if it wasn't enough at the end, he throws in a huge nugget with awesome footage and great videos, just wrapping up the whole scenario that he described. Incredible. I was just like livid.
It was, and
No doubt a plug in the middle of this for the Elk Academy. It is fantastic. You guys check it out on our webpage at elkbros.com. Set yourself up an account. Joe is a masterful teacher. Him and Chav, they've broken this stuff down to really layman's terms of how things can, and he teaches the inverted pyramid method. It's the coolest thing I've seen since sliced bread, bro.
you know what was so, and so that people understand what what the decision tree is. It's basically, it comes up and it'll come at it like a card, almost like a slide, and it'll give you a scenario, and then it'll give you choices. If you make one choice that we feel is not a decision or something that you ought to think about, it tells you and gives you information on what you should think about. If you make the choice that what we would make if you were riding on our shoulder, it goes to the next step, and each part of that scenario takes you almost through a hunt that has happened with us. In fact, a couple of them were, there's one with Luis that we did that you actually get to see the kill video at the end of it. But you see, it's not like a whack 'em and stack 'em video. You've just seen the scenario, you know what's going on, and then you get to see the actual thing happening with the bull coming in, and what Luis had to do and what we were doing with our calls, all of the stuff that we're talking about. So now, instead of you having to imagine this in your head, you're getting an idea, you're getting a visual, and we actually put some sounds in and stuff like that
Right.
too.
Yeah, man, it was just incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
It was a lot of
Chav,
fun.
what did you think when you first saw it, man?
Oh, it brought back some good memories.
Oh,
But it tells you step by step that whole scenario, and I think he does it like 2 or 3 times, where he tells you exactly what led up to the kill, what decisions were made, one step at a time, and what decisions somebody else could have made to make it different,
Right.
make the outcome different.
Yeah.
So it's real interactive. I think people will really enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't know that it's choose your own adventure book, Joe. But there are decisions in the tree. Like, for example, there's one place where Luis was actually, in his scenario, he had a cow elk come up to him 18 yards, and he could have smoked that cow. And in the scenario, I'm saying, well, that cow's at 18 yards, but you look back and the bull is following that cow. The bull is still back a ways, 100, 120 yards. But what do? Do you take the cow or do you wait on the bull? There is no right or wrong answer to that. If you decide to take that cow,
Big O's hunting. Only if Big O's hunting, because the cow dies.
but if you decide to take that cow, man, that's what I'm saying. That
No doubt, no
that's
doubt.
your choice, and that's a trophy. So there is no wrong decision in that.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's something that
absolutely.
we do with that. Dean asked a question about diaphragm calls and about them tickling his mouth inside there. You used to have the problem.
Yeah, when I just recently started really working on the diaphragm calls, but prior to that, that was my problem. It tickled my mouth, so I just didn't like it. But I found that if you trim that the diaphragm call just right,
Yeah.
The skirting, the tape
and
skirting around it.
when
Right?
it fits a lot tighter on your palate, you don't get that. So
Yeah, and it seems like he tried trimming it as well and didn't work. So it might be a matter of just trying trimming it again different way and see if that works better for
or
him.
maybe even the placement.
That's what I was going to say. Is a lot of times when guys are tickling their palate, they have that diaphragm too far forward. Okay, guys, when I say eye teeth, I'm talking about the fangs, that you have right there. That diaphragm, that latex should be back behind those eye teeth, man. You don't want them that far up front. And if it is up front, you want the back of, well, forget about that right now. You know, I mean, that's kind of advanced. I mean, I went for years really never shifting a diaphragm call in my mouth. You just need that so that it's placed up there behind the eye teeth. You can move the tongue back and forth to be able to get different pitches if you're that advanced, okay?
Joe, and again, I hate to bring it back up, but you've got excellent videos and graphics in the academy explaining all of that, and you're even showing a drawing with the teeth and where it should go, and you even open your ugly mouth and your ugly teeth for all of us to see them. And,
yeah, it was
and
that
the
part's kind of
videos.
disgusting, man.
So
yeah.
no, it's great. I think you know, all that is perfectly explained in there. I was like, I wish I had seen that the very first time as opposed to trying to go through that steep learning curve initially. So there's a question, Joe. I was going to, if you don't mind me, unless you have something else to say about that, there's another question here that I figured you may tackle.
So if I don't get any more on the scenario, I'm going to save some of those scenarios. I talked about the destination scenario and the advertising bull scenario. There's a few more that we use that the ElkBros group uses that we will do just again in a podcast. But I want to also bring in some of our ElkBros mailbox questions that we have down here because we got some really, really good questions there as well. You know, for example, I have Kendall Coppersmith out of Washington, and Kendall letter, he says, I appreciate everything you're putting out on the podcast. I listen every week and I've learned so much. Now this year, I'm focusing on trying to get the herd bull. The boy has set up a challenge, man. So, yeah, Dean's like, quit plugging the daggum thing, Luis, man, I'll buy it already. In his question, he says, my situation is a little different. I'm hunting eastern Washington, and there's only one herd in the whole area. It's an area that is all wheat country with timber draws and canyons that the elk live in. Last year, one big bull showed up and had all 42 cows with him with 7 other satellites surrounding him. I could not break that herd bull away from his cows. I had news for you, man. With that many satellites around him, you're not going to pull the bull. So the rest of the question says, he started to one time, but the satellites started to move in, and he went back to the cows. Do you have any tips or anything that I could try to get close to that bull? It's pretty open area, so sometimes stalking can be practically impossible. So, guys, he has a few issues going on here. Number one, he has open country, right? If I'm hoping that there's some place that these guys go to get into timber. If that's the case, I'm waiting until they get in timber before I'm working them. The other thing he talks about is that he's got all these cows with him. Mm-hmm. And if he has all these cows with him and he has the satellite bulls, that bull is not going to leave those cows to go off and chase a bull.
That's right.
That's not going to happen.
You got to pull his cows. You get between him and the cows.
Yeah. And Gilbert hit the nail on the head. You know, it's kind of like if you're hunting turkeys and you can't pull a gobbler, you pull his hens, right?
Yeah.
Or you get between the hens and the gobbler, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's your best strategy. You're in an open area where it's difficult to get on them, especially if they stay out in that open. But you're just going to have to try using the terrain. You're going to have to be really, really patient. And there's some guys in Arizona that I listen to that do a lot of coos hunting. And the other thing that they do is they will stalk animals. And they will do it where they actually, it'll take them 6 hours to move in. They move that slow. So even if the country's open, if you move like the hand on the hour and not on the minute, you can go ahead and get in on those animals, or at least trying to get to some place where you see that they're going to move from one area to the other. I mean, our best advice to you, Kendall, is either you're going to pull the cows, or you're going to have to find a way to move in, or you're going to try to get them in the timber. That's your best bet with all of that. Okay?
Yeah, I think I do a day or two of glassing and see where they're using the corridors, and then go set up there and try to get, when the cows come in the timber, try to get between him and the cows. And then you'll put on exactly what you're talking about. You'll put on an advanced little scenario where we're calling his cows. We're another bull and we're sounding bigger and badder than him, and we pull the cows towards us. And when that happens, you're gonna kill that bull.
Chav, when Chav and I used to hunt and we used to separate out, Chav, I don't know, you really only carried like hoochie or something like that.
Right.
Most of your hunting was done by sight, smell, and stalk, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So,
exactly.
So what was the technique that you used? And this is going to help somebody like Jonathan, because you weren't a big caller. You weren't depending on them sounding off. What were you depending on?
Well, again, the wind and having an idea where they were heading, and then trying to cut them off at the pass, so to speak, but not getting directly in front of them, but kind of shadowing them on the side. And then when they did get into some cover, I was able to go from tree to tree or shadow to shadow to get close enough. And there was I got several opportunities that way, but it was being patient. I really identify the lead cow, because that's the one that's going to bust you. There's always one cow that's looking around. The rest just follow, and the bull just follows.
Yeah.
The year I killed my big bull, we had probably, I want to say 15 to 17 cows that actually passed in front of me. And if I wouldn't have saw him off in the distance, I would have killed one of those cows, no problem. But when I saw how big he was, I knew if I could get between him and the cows, I had a really good shot at killing him. And the cows were just right there. I mean, I could have turned and shot one of those cows anytime I wanted to at 22 yards. As it was, the bull was going to walk in. If he walked in right where I needed him to, as he was sauntering through bugling, he was going to walk in at 70 yards, and I was going to have a window to shoot him. And I'm telling you, it was the perfect scenario for me. Cows there, me in between him. I didn't do anything. I didn't have to say a word. I didn't have to bugle. I didn't have to cow call. They were doing all the cow calling for me. What I had done was call those cows to me by bugling several times before that. And I really didn't know what I was doing, because I couldn't see the cows until they were on me. And so they were coming to me the whole time. Well, that really aggravated him. So when I'm playing the scenario back in my mind, now I'm understanding how it actually all unfolded. But what we really didn't know was Joe was pushing them from the bottom, right? Joe sounded like another bull. It was coming up from the bottom. So it had the whole herd in a tizzy. And I got between the big herd bull and his cows. And there must have been, 7 to 9 satellite bulls in there.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, we knocked the big bull down, and it was like big bull rut fest going on in front of us. I don't know how many bulls we saw that morning, but it was crazy. But had I not got between that bull and his cows, I'd have never killed that big bull.
And one thing I wanted to tell Kendall is, I told you to pull the cows, but I didn't tell you how to pull the cows. And the way you pull the cows is, remember, the bulls don't choose which cows to breed. The cows choose the bulls. And the cows want the biggest, baddest, strongest bull out there to ensure that they have a healthy calf. So if you are out there and you are display bugling, if you're lip balling, if you're sounding like a big nasty bull that even has his own cows with him, by you sounding more dominant and going over top of a bull that talks to you, you want to talk to his cows, man. You want to go ahead and give those display bugles to those cows to let them know, and sound like other big bulls in the area too. Cows are herd animals, and when they hear that there's dominant bulls that are fighting for a hot cow and they sound aggressive, they sound big, that lead cow will start coming that direction over there.
Yes. And when they do, when you see that lead cow leading the other ones to you, as that other herd bull is sounding off, because now he's mad. He's mad that those cows are leaving him. you step on him. As soon as he does something, you step on him and you will incense him. He just can't handle that, right? So he's going to come now. Now he knows bull is fixing to take his cows, and it's on. You better be ready and have your stuff together. Find your, it's about closing the deal then, because when the cows come, he's coming regardless. And every time he sounds off, you just cut him off and mimic him or something. You will get him so fired up. He'll walk in there, his eyes will be big and white and red, and he'll be beating all over himself. I mean, it's the coolest thing in the world if you guys ain't ever done it. I'm getting excited talking about it, Joe. God almighty.
And something that I have not mentioned too, Kendall, that if I was in your situation, dude, I have a ultimate predator decoy on the front of my bow, and I am moving in on them boogers, man. I tell you what, I am an aggressive son of a gun, and if I've got some bulls out there in the open, and it's got cows out there, I am going to be cow calling. I'm going to have that predator decoy on the front of my bow, and I'm going to be moving at them boogers and trying to get up. I am going to try it, man. I mean, we even have guys out here, if you're in cattle country, they will use big silhouette cow silhouettes that has a shoot through on it, that they will actually go and move slowly towards the elk with a cow silhouette. So, and I'm talking moo cow. I'm not talking about elk cow there. The ultimate predator decoy actually makes a moo cow as well. That's a little bit bigger there. But I've seen people that have just used, I know there's another company that produces a very big moo cow and they use it for antelope and different things. So, if I'm in that situation, this boy's going to figure them animals out, and we're going to find a way to be able to get in there, man.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question from George Smith. Says, "Our bulls
it's
still..."
not simple, though, that's for sure. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Are bulls still sounding off at the end of October, beginning of November? Yes. Yes, they are. And
you betcha.
You guys got to remember too is that, and there's a question coming up about this, is that cows go in estrus, and they all don't go in at the same time. And for some reason, if they can tell if there's going to be a really bad winter, and some of them cows will hold off on their estrus a little later. And I don't know that they hold off on it so much as the stress. It's kind of like humans. The stress can interrupt that estrus. And I don't know if they feel that or what. And so they can end up having that a little later. If they get missed in the breeding the first time, well, they're going to come in 20-some days later on that. And they can come in, if they don't get bred the second time, they'll come in 22nd days again, man. So you can end up with bulls bugling and rutting all the way at the end of October, beginning of November. Now, most of those big bulls have dropped off, but we killed the largest bull on October 27th on our ranch 2 years ago, over 400, and it happened late in October, and they were rutting like crazy, man, because one cow came in heat.
One of the good ways, if you guys are doing a bunch of scouting and stuff, putting boots on the ground, you guys that live in the elk states, y'all see when those cows or those calves hit the ground. You'll know exactly when the majority of your breeding is being done, right?
Yeah, I want y'all to look at this comment on here from Richard Potter, man.
Yeah,
huh?
I see that one. Yeah, he's got you pegged.
Yeah, he's over here. Make sure you can't see your shadow through the decoy. See, you guys have been talking crap all this time. They're starting to believe it, man.
Hey, dude, that was hey, listen, Joe and I put on a show that morning that would have rivaled the best elk video you'd ever seen in your life. I'm talking, if there were 400-inch bulls around us, they were coming to us and trying to jump in our lap, brother. We had actually called some bulls past a barrier and had it coming. I mean, this bull, we're calling for Chav. We got it for Chav. I mean, Chav's going to get him within 40 yards. It's a done deal. I'm telling you, that locked up like an English pointer. He's like on it, boy. And we're like, what in the world is going on, man? And it was definitely the sunlight and Joe's beautiful silhouette behind old Dollar. And for sure, man, that bull was like, not this old bull. But we had to get it going just to
Joe, you're muted.
Oh, I'm
Joe, you
sorry,
muted.
man. Yeah, so that freaking bull, he just kept looking, man. He kept doing his head side to side like that. And I was
And
like,
I'm wondering,
what's that
yeah,
bull's problem?
I'm wondering why I ain't heard Chab. I'm down below Chab. I'm wondering why I ain't seen him raise up. I'm wondering I ain't heard it because I know the bull's coming. I've seen him, So I'm just kind of laying low, and I look at Joe, and I look over at Chab. I look at Joe, and I'm like, man, what is going on here? Well, the bull done, like I said, he's on definitely.
So Scott Baker says, hey, Joe,
Joe.
he says, what's up with elevations? I know you told me that they will go back higher if there is food source slaved to their bellies. Yeah, and we just had a big conversation on our last podcast about this. And, understand that elk, where they go to bed, I think the elk that survive us, that survive the ElkBros crew, because the country can be so varied. You can have canyons that go up to more of a flat top, that then go up to mountains, and you have all this varied elevations there. That generally we learn how a lot of these guys move from feed up to the ridge bedding, but there's some of those elk that will drop off on the side onto the
steep ravines
and
canyons,
and they get away from us, right?
Oh, definitely.
Because they're dropping down and they're actually coming up on top to feed. But what they're doing, Scott, is these guys are masters at using thermals, man. So they can actually feed longer on top, drop off the side, and now they immediately have thermals coming up from the bottom that they have a defense mechanism with. So yeah, it's all about them being slave to their bellies. You find the food source, you're going to find elk. And Kenneth Sutton asks, should I be bugling during second season rifle Colorado? I don't remember the exact dates of that rifle season, but I have a feeling, if you can tell me the date on that, Kenneth, that'd help me out and I'll answer that, right? Okay.
It's probably end of November, Joe.
If it's the beginning of November, there's still young bulls that are bugling at that time, because those young guys, they get a chance to take over those cows, and they're kind of feeling it a little bit. The big guys have bailed off, but yeah, it kind of it's one of those situations that, again, if an estrus happens, but other than that, it's just those younger bulls, those satellites that are taking over, because now they have an opportunity and they get to do their practice for the following year. Okay.
Yeah, but bulls sound off. I've heard bulls in December sound off, so I wouldn't
Absolutely.
not bugle. I mean, if you're just going to want to see if you catch one answering back, you just never know.
Oh, October 24th. Yeah, I'm bugling, Kenneth. But
yeah.
But you got to understand, Hunchav, I'm always calling, huh?
Yeah.
I even call when I shouldn't be calling, man. Yeah.
That's how you learn. You got to try it all the time, and over a period of time, we've learned what works, what doesn't. But there's been a lot of times we've been out there and haven't heard a thing all day long, and all of a sudden you hear was that a bugle? And Luis and Monado could probably attest to that, after walking 14, 15 miles.
No, heck no. I didn't hear anything.
And
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know there were times where I would hear a bugle way off there, and I go, oh, it's time to eat, though. So I had second thoughts, too. But, yeah, you got to experiment. You got to experiment.
And one thing I'll tell you, too, is I think sometimes the rut is happening a little later. It seems like in some areas year after year, which means that those cows are coming in a little later. So just think about this. Gilbert, you guys remember how it explodes around October 1st, right? So let's say that a cow comes in heat October 1st or September 28th, around that time, and does not get bred. Well, now you're looking for that cow to come in again right around the 20th there, Kenneth, to the 24th on that next estrus. So yeah, man, you get a chance for a second estrus happening there. That's a good tactic. I'm using it. And in fact, we go out. We'll go out during March We'll go out December, and we've gone just hiking and used cow calls to bring herds into us.
Right.
Yeah.
It calms them down, so
Mm-hmm.
we get real close.
Absolutely, man.
And that's a good chance or a good opportunity to listen to cow talk.
Yep.
You know, the different sounds you hear.
So before I'm gonna do one more question from our mailbox, and if I see anything come up on you guys here, we'll try to hit that before we get out. But this one is from Frank Colucci out of Odessa, Florida, and Colucci, man, it's got to be a fellow Italian right there. He says,
Yeah.
first, I not only want to thank you for all your dedication and commitment to us as blue-collar hunters, but also to the sport and to the species. I did have one remaining question that I don't think was addressed during the previous shows. In your experience, oh wow, we're just kind of talking about, does unusual weather occurrences like early snow or cold spells or even extended summer-type conditions have significant impacts on the typical elk rut timeline, meaning cows come into estrus well before or after the equinox? I ask as I will be hunting some tough terrain in Idaho next year where they get a foot of snow in June, and I'm trying to consider every possible factor to be successful.
Good. A foot of snow in June. It's got to be really high elevation.
Yeah, and I think if I'm getting a foot of snow in June, I don't have to worry too much because them boogers are going to move
They're
down.
coming down.
Yeah, they're going to move down some. So I would just tell you this, Frank, is it's kind of like it's trying to guess, man. It's like throwing darts when you're blindfolded trying to play that equinox. What I would do is I would hunt with the same technique no matter what during the time that I'm hunting. And, you know, it's also that cows don't come in. The older cows are actually going to come in heat before the younger cows, and then some of the younger cows on. And it's just it's such a hard thing to hit. And then there's going to be groups of them that are going to come in together. It's just like humans, man. There just seems to be this social grouping that happens with people that live together, and cows that stay together in a herd sometimes are going to come in at the same time. And they're in estrus for under 24 hours. So while some of them are coming in, others can be, and then going out, others can be coming in. So that's just too tricky of a game to worry about. I would just say that I'm going to do my season. I'm going to hunt during that time, and I'm going to hunt with the same technique.
Yep, that makes sense, Joe. I mean, that it sounds like he's going to be in some big elevation anyway, and if you get that kind of weather, you're just going to have to hunt below it, because the elk aren't going to be up there in the snow.
Or I'm going to look for track in the snow. It's going to tell me quick where they're at, right?
Tell me exactly how they're moving, where they're moving, for sure.
So, guys, man, this has been awesome tonight. We've had some great conversations going off in the wings.
Yeah.
I think Luis has enjoyed this totally, man.
Oh, man, this has been awesome. Just freaking hilarious to listen to, read everything the guys are writing out there. And you can tell everybody's been paying a lot of attention to, especially to them good jokes and podcast.
And also, we understand that you guys want to see the true leader of the Venezuelan mafia. I keep hearing chants. I keep hearing chants for Manano. So we're going to have to see what we can do about getting Manano out here, man. And for all you guys that are out there right now, if you want to see Manano, I want to start typing in Manano.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, look, I don't disagree that everybody wants to see Manano because they all want to see the face of the guy that gets picked on every time. But about the true Venezuelan leader, now we're just getting in deep waters there. You can't call that a leader, man. Come on now. You got to show up to be a leader to begin with.
Got to show up I tell my kids all the time, got to show up to show out.
That's right. That's right.
It's been a great night, man. I totally have enjoyed this, guys. We like the live thing. It's different for us to do. It's a whole different focus. It's like we're having one big elk camp, which is pretty doggone cool, man. Scott Baker, come on, Luis, you're the leader.
Thank you, brother Scott. Appreciate it, man. There you go. See, now we're talking.
Your check's in the mail, Scott.
Well, Gilbert.
Guys, if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe, rate, and review. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. The new academy is epic. I mean, we need the 5-star reviews. You guys keep doing what you're doing for us. We're going to keep putting out the content. Joe has worked his tail off of getting this academy. Him and Chab, they've really worked tirelessly at getting this done. We just got a few short weeks, man, and we're going to be bringing another podcast from elk camp. I got a feeling. So it's going to be really cool from up there on the mountain this year. I can't wait. The days are getting shorter, guys, and it's going to be time to go get out there and go slay a dragon. I can't wait to share elk camp with my brothers, and really it's a way we can share elk camp with all of you. You know, it's been a fantastic night. We appreciate everybody out on YouTube checking us out. You guys keep doing that. We're going to keep getting better at live. We stumbled a little bit in this first part, but we're going to keep getting better at doing it. As we say all the time here at Elk Bros, you know, this social distancing is getting better. We wish all of our brothers out there a safe and healthy rest of your summer and on into elk season. You guys take care of one another. Love your neighbor. Husbands, kiss your wives. Wives, kiss your husbands. Y'all hug your babies and keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace, everybody.
Peace, guys.